Nathan, what is protected for the members and what guarantees under your ownership do they have?
Oh, well, they get, things like club colours, the ground, the name, all those sort of things are sort of enshrined, that they can never be changed. They're obviously putting up a $20 million guarantee to make sure that, that rolls every 2 years, so that, my obligations are, they're hard in concrete, so to speak. So, I think that's a, it seems like a fairy tale compared to where they are right now.
Absolutely. You want to retain the Knights as a not-for-profit organisation. Can you categorically say that any profits that are made will go back into the club?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Same thing with the Jets. So, we've set up this, as I've said previously, I see this as an act of charity or goodwill towards the community. This sort of thing, that we want our hunter communities, our national brands to be strong and something that we as a community are proud of. And we only get that if the money goes back in and continues to develop.
We've talked about being inherently media shy. Would you like the opportunity personally to be able to address the members?
Yeah, no, I think that all those plans are in place. Ken's picking out a date for us now to do that, and I look forward to that. Stand there and happy to answer questions. And I think people need to understand that this is not some rich guy driven by ego that wants to own a football club. This is just it's an active community. The people that will go in have got the vested interest of Newcastle at heart, and I think those people will make the club successful. You
have been a little bit critical of Robert Chew and Steve Burraston in this whole process, but you can understand that they needed to cross the T's and dot the I's. Where do you stand regarding their relationship? Have they done the right thing by the members?
Oh, look, those guys have done the right things by the members. I think it's tough. It's been tough for them. I think Rob Chew in particular is in a bit of a thankless task. Look, I haven't been involved with Steve Burraston in a lot of these negotiations, so sort of can't really comment there. But look, Rob's worked tirelessly for Newcastle, and he's done a good job as chairman. We've I suppose I think I do this sort of stuff every day, so it's a little bit different. Rob's probably been out of his comfort zone doing it a little bit, so it's taken a bit longer. I might have been a little bit impatient with that, but we've both kept coming back to the table, and we've both done what we said we were going to do, and that's what's put this offer on the table for members.
We touched on local a little bit earlier. How important is local to you, and could you see one day where 80% of the side is locally born and bred? I think in '97, 8 of the 13 that ran on at one stage were locally born and bred. Yeah. 2001, 13 of the 17 were locally born and bred. Is that where you want to get back to, specifically with the Knights?
Oh, look, I think that's just proof, isn't it, that it can happen. We can either sort of, part of that is, I've got no doubt we produce enough good footballers. It's being able to retain them, and that means being able to pay them and stuff like that. You could pick a Hunter Valley 13 right now out of the NRL, no problems at all, that would win your competition. But you've got to be able to retain them, and you've got to have the balance sheet to be able to do that. So absolutely the focus is on local. I think there's even a lot of kids in the local competition here, playing first grade in the local Newcastle competition. I'd like to see those ties back to the Knights be stronger in future years, rather than a guy dropping back out of first grade that gets lost, or a kid coming out of the under-20s that is too old to play in that competition lost. I think the local competition here is very strong, and I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it be a good pathway for those guys that come through later on.
Would you like to encourage the National Rugby League to get back to a situation where you've got first grade, Reggies, and the NYC? Yeah,
look, I think reserve grade. I think I certainly missed that anyway. Certainly, as a player, I think it was always. There's a big gap between the under-20s and the reserve and the first grade, and I think a lot of the new signings for the Knights this year are under-20s and very good kids and that sort of stuff. But there's big raps on a kid like Bo Henry and that sort of thing, who's coming up out of 20s, but he hasn't played first grade yet. And if he has 7 or 8 games of first grade this year, I reckon he would have had a great season. So whereas he's getting hyped up like an Andrew Johns at the moment. So I hope he goes well.
Absolutely. And for the fans too, they would love to see who is going to progress to first grade. And often the second grade side is playing as the Centurions away from home. They get to see who's going to make the step.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, it becomes, and I think it's harder too for guys like Rick Stone to be able to, he needs to be looking at those games too, and say, yeah, this kid had a good game, so to speak. So he's Rick's across that, and I think he'll be very supportive of that sort of, growing those ties closer.
Kate Snowden was all over the press, front and centre. Was that an indication of how local you feel, and maybe the first step in trying to encourage some of these kids to think about Newcastle again? Yeah,
no, look, absolutely. I think, Cade's a talent, and I was shattered when he left, and you know, I think I was actually in New York, and I got up and I seen in the paper that he'd re-signed. I rung Ken. I said, "What happened here?" And he said, "Yeah, I don't know." So I rung Cade, and I didn't realise he was about to front a press conference. But look, I didn't make an offer. I just said, "What's your hurry?" The Knights are we're going through a transition period. You know, what are you gaining by signing up now as opposed to June? So, you know, I didn't ring up and say, I'll give you $1 million tomorrow if you sign or anything silly like that. I think there's a few Sydney journos that are Cronulla fans that had the knives out over that. But it was just an entire beat up. But that goes to the quality of the guy. That he knows what he wants. He wants to come home, and I think he wouldn't have stood firm that day. It took guts for him to do that.
Well, in that scenario, will Nathan Tinkler have his 2 bobs worth as to the players that come to the club and maybe the coaching staff?
No. We've all got our opinions. If you love rugby league, you've got your opinions. That's what barbecues are for. But look, Rick Stone had introduced me to Cade at the end of last year and said, "Look, this is a kid we need." I think he's got green and gold all over him, Cade. So Rick had made that introduction and facilitated those discussions. So it wasn't me saying, "Oh, I'm going to buy my favourite player." Rick Stone had stood in the middle of all that, so that was what was happening.
Jamal Idris has been talked about. Has there been any other discussion?
No, look, I haven't been involved in that at all. I haven't spoken to Jamal or anything like that. I think he's obviously one of the boom players coming off contract, and he's a local guy. He's well worn the red and blue before and slipped through our fingers, like a lot of others. So I think everyone seems pretty keen to have him back. So if that's the way they choose to go, I'd say the door will be open for him.
Well, in the next couple of weeks, if you are successful in owning the football team, the Newcastle Knights, a passion of yours, what will it mean for people and members of the Hunter Valley and the Newcastle region?
Oh, look, I hope it gets back to some of those things that we'd all considered part of Knights culture being sort of reinvigorated, and that is the local product coming through, that sort of toughness that the Knights had always displayed and were built on. But first and foremost, I hope we just get it back to winning and being everything being about what happens on the paddock and the quality of the players that we have. There's going to be a rebuilding process. We'd be silly to say, "Oh, we're going to stand here and win the next 3 competitions," but that doesn't mean you don't want to aim for that.
And as far as the Knights are concerned, would you like to see their tentacles spread further than just Newcastle and Hunter Valley? Is the Tamworth, New England area important? Is the Mid-North Coast important to them?
Yeah, look, all those areas that are further north, Group 19, Group 3, Group 2, they're all sort of areas that I grew up in, and, so I know how far the Knights' tentacles reach, Unfortunately, when I was sort of up in sort of the New England area, and that the Broncos had come down that far, and they do to Port Macquarie and stuff as well. So, look, they've probably got a march on it. All those things are related to funding, though, and being able to get out there and reach those junior areas. And I think we can develop some plans that'll see us, have a stronger presence and be able to retain a lot more of the good junior talent that's coming through.
And part and parcel of your proposal, and a very big part of it, is junior development, which you're passionate about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think as a code, places like the AFL have absolutely stolen a march on rugby league and rugby union and those sort of things, which I always seen as New South Wales and Queensland being a real heartland for both those codes. And like it or not, you've got to compete for juniors now. People just don't wake up and say, "I'm taking my kid to rugby league on Saturday morning." It's whether it's soccer, union, whatever.